You don't gain a six-pack or put on the muscles by eating one piece of broccoli, which is, I love to use that metaphor. Like, you cannot eat healthy once. You train your body. You continue to show up at the gym. You're physically conditioning your body and training it. Same with the mind.
Welcome to the Confident Podcast. I am Lisa Tarkington, your guide to mastering confidence and leadership. As a business and leadership coach, keynote speaker, and the founder behind the nonprofit Lead, I am here to equip you with the confidence, clarity, and strategy to create game-changing results so that you can step into your power as the person that you are meant to be. If you press play today, it's because you're ready for something bigger. Each episode, I'll bring you real, raw conversations and actionable insights that will empower you to redefine your leadership, reclaim your confidence, and transform into the unstoppable force you've always been known to be. This isn't just another podcast. It's your journey that we're on together. So buckle up and let's dive into this transformation. Hi, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of the Confident Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Tarkington. And I have had some amazing guests on this podcast, haven't I? It's been so fun this year to see the energy brought to the table, who's talking about what, different topics, but all going back to things that can help us with our confidence. And today's conversation is one that I've been looking forward to for a while. So we're bringing on my friend Libby, who she has many, many great titles that I'll get to in a second. But Libby has been part of my life since about 2018. And it feels like we've known each other our whole lives. She's been on this podcast multiple times. She also still has the top rated episode with me called You Had Me at Mimosa. That's what we called it. You Had Me at Mimosa. It's still our top rated episode. If you haven't listened, go check it out. And she is just so fun. I talked a couple months ago on this podcast about the summer of 2021 when I was just like true to myself and how I'm coming home to myself this year. And she was actually the person that was on all of the adventures with me, bringing out the play and the fun, but also the professional side of me. And so I'm excited to have her on the podcast. So just a really quick thing on Libby. Libby is a leadership and conscious living coach for high-achieving women. Her work is rooted in one core belief that you are the medicine, meaning real healing and transformations come from mastering your energy, honoring your body, nurturing your spirit, and learning to trust your inner wisdom. Today, we're going to be all talking about trusting your intuition, nervous systems, who you are, and so many great things that are going to help you move the needle forward for your life. So let's dive into it. Well, Libby, welcome to the Confident Podcast for I think this is your third time.
Is it?
I think so. I think
you
you were here like right in the beginning when we got started. And then again, which is still like we had one on You Had Me at Mimosa, which is still my top rated podcast.
So wild.
It's so wild episode, which is so wild because I've transformed so much since then that it's like really cool to know that one's still out there. And then Today you're back. You're back in our studio. You've never got to be with a studio.
No, so thank you.
You know what? You're actually been on, I think, 4 times because there was a time that we went to Traverse City and I did one with you and our friend Alyssa. There? Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is amazing. Thank you. I love it.
Sorry. I was just like, wow, you've been on so many times. But, I kind of set the tone for the audience before you jumped in. But, one of the things that I always love, like when I get to have someone on that I know, I love sharing just a little bit of like, holy crap, like we've owned a business together.
I know.
It's like crazy. So for those that don't know, Libby and I own Blue Wave Wellbeing together. I was packing up a bag today and I actually was finding all my shirts and I was like, I'm going to wear this one later. It's incredible to think that like people always say, I think this is really cool is like people always say like, be careful of who you get into business with. Like all these things. I didn't question it at all. We signed like an agreement at a bank together. Like we did all these things,
Mind you, we knew each other for maybe 6 months, maybe 12. I can't remember the timeline specifically.
It was that long.
But I didn't grow up with you. We were introduced through like mutual connections several times. And I think that was part of the beauty of this, right? Is that I moved back to Michigan and people were like, you need to know Lisa. And you were hearing the same thing.
Yes.
And so it was just this beautiful unfoldment of synchronicities to align our lives. And then it was just instant. you're a soul sister. Like
For
no
real.
other explanation.
For real. Well, and I remember like I was transitioning from my corporate job to like becoming a full-time entrepreneur, and you held my hand in Grove Tea was the coffee shop at the time that we were meeting at. And we built a business together, and we won competitions together.
Yeah, totally. We business pitches.
Yes.
Never pitched in my life, but we
Ever.
did.
And I think it's so funny. Our first pitch, we won first place.
Yeah.
Which is just so fun. Or maybe that was our second one, but like phenomenal to look back and
we
be
got like audience choice.
I know.
Yeah.
All the things.
Well, you are like my sister, because people are like, are you twins? And we're like, no, just like there's a soul connection here. I don't know how to explain that.
And both of our sisters, I mean, my sister doesn't look like me at all. You know,
my sister's similar facial features maybe, but blonde hair, blue eyes. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that that's like the beauty of it all. And then we also, I think what was really cool about the chapter too is we both closed the business we had a ceremony for it. We closed it.
Yeah.
And nothing changed with our relationship. And I think that that's really beautiful too, because that was a chapter of our lives, you know, that we were both like, okay, I think it's time to close the business. And like, when I say close, like we didn't just, okay, no more posting or no more going after business, like bank account close, LLC close, like it is
YouTube gone,
yeah,
Facebook.
YouTube.
And that was super intentional, right?
Yeah.
And like getting to that decision was not easy.
Yeah.
It was an energy that we could feel because we had a lot going on in our lives. Yep. I was moving out to Arizona, had life transitions. You were having life transitions. And while we loved what we were creating, it was like, it doesn't feel like the right time for this. And when we closed it, we were always like, but it's like still alive, even though we wanted to close. I always call it like an energetic container, right? Of being super intentional about creating some type of a ceremony, or just we prayed together. We prayed together before this to set our intentions and align like what we were calling in. And I think that's so powerful. But like more than anything, that was a tough decision because of we still say that was like the best times of our life.
Best times. I literally was just talking about this on the podcast the other day, and someone was like, you talk about this summer of 2021 all the time. And I'm like, you don't understand. It was the best summer.
Yeah. And so coming to that was not easy, but it was just something that was felt, and through so many conversations, it wasn't just one. It was like, yeah, this actually feels really light and good in my body. And for whatever reason right now, like we're being asked to like shut it down. But I felt like that was a huge lesson in and of itself, of just trusting this idea and this creative energy that wants to come alive, following that move. We learned so much in that process about running our businesses, which I would imagine that now in our own businesses now, so much of that knowledge, at least for me, is like pouring into that.
So much.
And also it's just like a huge lesson in sometimes things go completely unplanned and you don't know why in the moment, but you have to trust. For me, it shows up as body sensations. You have to trust that.
Yeah.
But Blue Wave is still alive.
Oh, Blue Wave. I still love
it. If you have a Blue Wave sweatshirt, please keep wearing it.
Well, and speaking of that, actually, I was teaching somewhere else recently, and someone was like, so I have this like shirt, and it was from Libby. They had seen Libby at a yoga event. Yeah. And still had a shirt. I'm blanking on what
it just said meditate.
Meditate. Thank you. Yes, that's what it was. And it's so great to see like full circle moments. And to your point about like the business piece, like I look back and there were moments where we were like, we have so much we want to say. How do we simplify? And I kid you not, which is so funny. The other day I had Libby looking over something that I was about to send out to my whole audience. And she goes, that's a lot of information. I chuckled because we used to be the queens of all this information. Overload. Like we couldn't give enough away.
That's because we're so passionate about what we do, right? And so like when we get into that state of flow, and I know you teach that in your zone of genius, I feel like part of that for us is sharing a message and using our voice. And so it's like when that passion arises, it's like we want to keep going.
Yes.
And there's so much beauty in that.
Totally,
right? And what you had put together was amazing. I was like, you had 4 emails
in
one.
I know.
Lisa loves you all. She's just like, giving you all of this content.
I know. But like, I think what the beauty was is that, like when you have people in your life that know you, they're able to give you feedback that's helpful a lot. Not like, this looks amazing. Cause yeah, sure it did. But saying like, hey, like this might be a lot for your audience. And what I did then with what the information that Libby gave me is I actually made it better because then I was able to break it down, simplify it, but also make it powerful. And I think that that's like the beautiful piece of it.
Yeah.
So anyways, like back to like the whole business thing, just incredibly insane to think about, you know, and Libby and I are actually going up north here in a little bit to work on something else here. And I think that that's the coolest piece about being in business with people that get you, that trust the body feels, you know, the intuition piece. And I, you know, when we were just praying right here before we like got started, I did that the other day when I was teaching a keynote right beforehand, and it flashed back to our first pitch that Libby and I did. And that was the first time where I had started to set intentions before I did things. Like, yeah, I set intentions, quotes, right?
Yeah.
But I really embodied it. And now it's just part of my practice, right? Like before you do things. Like,
I love that. I don't
do you
know
set
if I
that?
knew that.
No, you didn't. No, but
Yeah.
it's like, I think you took me to a different level with that. Like, sure, you think it in your head, you visualize it, but we were very intentional about hand on heart, eyes closed, feel the feels. And I really think part of the reason why we won that pitch competition too is that not only were we great, but like we really embodied what we wanted out of that.
Yeah, we create a felt experience in that room, no doubt. Especially just knowing that the audience resonated with the message in the way that they did. But when you are aligned to passion, I think people feel that energy. And that's why for me, before a coaching call, before opportunities like this, before getting on a stage, before leading a big meeting with executives, aligning your own personal energy is so powerful. I didn't do this probably even, I don't know, not even 10 years ago. So it's been less than 10 years since I started doing this. And it's completely transformed my life because I was somebody that I just have so many thoughts, like a racing mind. And when I'm able to like ground and anchor in my body, it centers me. And you'll notice when I talk a lot, I close my eyes. And that's so I can connect to this higher level of consciousness to say, like, speak what feels like truth in my body versus just speaking just to speak out of like in an unconscious way. And so I've learned all of this and just allowing myself even permission to slow down and set intention. And I've seen the ripple effects of how that impacts my clients, like cultivating friendships and relationships like this. And not everybody's open to it.
True.
So, you know, I even asked you, do you want to do this before like the old days? Right. And I always ask permission, but I love that you like in that moment at the pitch, I didn't know that like this, like what we were doing together was some of the first times you had embodied this, that you had an openness and you were curious and you were like, I'm going to explore this. And you were able to see the shift it made in you. I mean, it gives me so much confidence, which is obviously like the topic of your show here, of just being able to ground in my body and connect to it. I read my own cues, and that's like, for me, that's like, I'm in alignment with my higher self and with my God, the way that God is guiding me in this moment, if you will.
Yeah.
I call it God, not universe, source energy.
Obviously, I talk a lot about my faith on this show. I think what you're like, what I think is just beautiful is, you know, when you have people in your life that you're like, oh, if I call them, they're going to give me this advice. If I do this. And one of the things that I've always admired about you is how, like, you know, when you said like you close your eyes when you talk sometimes, but like you pause, you think about it, and then your intuition kind of guides you, you know. And recently we were just talking about something that, you know, I was giving an opportunity for you to do something, and you're like, you know what, this doesn't align. And I remember that night thinking, good for Libby. Like, good for you, because how many times do we not trust our intuition?
Yeah.
And we don't trust those things. So speaking of intuition, how does one know? Like, where do you even begin when it comes to that?
Yeah. Well, so I would say it begins by getting still and pausing.
But Libby, that's hard.
It's hard.
Just kidding.
Yeah, but it takes practice. It's a muscle you're cultivating, right? Like before this, we were talking about scanning our food and healthy food choices. You don't gain a six-pack or put on the muscles by eating one piece of broccoli, which is, I love to use that metaphor. Like, you cannot eat healthy once. You train your body. You continue to show up at the gym. You're physically conditioning your body and training it. Same with the mind. We're not taught the importance and the power of learning how to like truly take care of our mental health. I never learned that in school. I didn't have somebody intentionally modeling that in my life. And so this journey has been learning to become still. And that's not to say I still have thoughts. At the beginning of this journey of like going inward, I'll never forget my therapist saying to me, Libby, you just need to learn how to be. And I thought being meant that I was still doing, like reading a book and, journaling. And there are definitely, that's mindfulness. But learning how to just be with my body for 30 seconds, a minute, my practice is longer now, has really allowed me to be able to become a witness to the experience that I'm having in my mind and in my body. And so without doing that, you won't see the nudges. You won't necessarily get the hits. You might, and we all still get them. But for me, my antenna to connect to my intuition has strengthened the more moments I create in my day and in my life where I am still and I am present and I'm just like, what feels true for me right now in this moment? And it typically for me shows up as body sensations. Like I get massive goosebumps. It happens a lot, like engagements like this, where it's like I say something and I feel goosebumps, and that feels like my indication of what I said was truth. Keep going that direction. For some people, it might just show up as like a warming sensation in their body. I call them hits or downloads in November to do a holiday meditation series and to start it on Thanksgiving. And this was like 3 days before. And I was like, you want me to do a meditation series you want me to lead a meditation every day from Thanksgiving to Christmas? And I'm talking to myself in this higher consciousness. And it was like so clear as day. My body was so lit up. And I called my marketing person and I was like, how do we do this in the fastest, easiest, most simplest way possible? And we did it. And in that moment, I had no idea why I did it, but it was clear as day that I needed to do it. Wow. Now, mind you, I'm going to continue with this story because this is the power of, I had no idea why I needed to do this. I only had 15 people in the group. So of course I'm doing this and I'm leading these meditations every day and I'm like, there's only 15 people in here, and I'm judging my ego as like, I expected this to be like hundreds of people by the way that this download came in, and it was not. However, I kept doing it and I was like, I am committed to this intuitive hit. I'm committed to it. I'm now using that material in other ways. Sharing it with a coaching client, sharing it with a friend who the theme of that resonates, right? And so it was like, God knew that I wasn't just going to, on a random Friday, record 10 meditations. It was because they were all intuitive too. Every single morning I was like, what is alive with me? What message do I need to share in this meditation? And that's what I recorded. Anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. So now the ripple effect is the ways in which it's impacting people's lives outside of that specific container, which is not maybe all it was for.
Yeah.
So this is where you have to trust sometimes, where it's like, I'm getting these hits and this guidance and I don't know why. Now, the opposite is also true, where I've gotten lots of intuitive guidance to turn right instead of left, connect with this person, and I don't follow it. But then I realize I've been asking and praying for clarity on X. How do I build this in my business? How do I do that? Praying for somebody to just land right in front of me. And it's like I'm getting the guidance on who to connect with, and I don't do that. So there are ways in which we block it because it can feel really scary.
Yeah.
So like as entrepreneurs, how many times are we like asked to like apply for that gig? Apply to that speaking engagement, get on stage in front of 1,000 people, Lisa, and share your message. And you're like, the stomach starts moving and you're like, this feels so scary. You might not actually submit to that because you're like, oh, my body is like all the feels right now. But at the same time, if you were to follow through with that, you have no idea what that could lead to. And more importantly, the impact of your message on the lives of those people that are in that room, because we know that more and more people need to hear your message. Yeah. So I share that in that intuition is typically that voice that's really soft. It's really gentle. You get minimal information typically.
Yeah.
And that's what can also feel really scary is that we're not given always the how or even sometimes the what. And these moments come in not when we're in front of a whiteboard brainstorming, when we're driving, when we're out on a walk in nature. I was literally driving in my car from my gym back to my house. It's never when we're forcing it. which also can feel really confusing sometimes when it comes in. But more importantly, a lot of times when this comes in, I sit with it and I'm like, okay, I got this. And I'll just like focus on it. And if my body still lights up and I feel excited and just kind of like alive, it's like I can feel this like fiery, poppy energy. Yeah. That's like a go. And there's all sorts of, I don't know how in depth you want to get on this. I've been talking for a while now, so I'll pause. But there's all of these ways too in which we just like self-sabotage when that does come in.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you, but you kind of like laid on it a little bit of like, okay, how many times have we all had those intuitions come up? But it's like, oh, this doesn't like, not, I don't even want to say not feel good, but I think of like, there are moments where something will sit in my inbox.
Yeah.
And you're like, this will take me 5 minutes to do, or to your point, like if or, outreach for business, like that takes time and effort and, but when you're being asked to do something, it is easy to want to avoid it because it is not, sometimes it's not as simple as we had hoped. But you also said something that was very interesting where you're like, but it's also usually what we've been asking for.
Yeah.
It's just not in the way that we are like, hey, like we want that blinking green light. And sometimes it's like yellow when it's flashing. And he's like, hey, I'm giving this to you, but I need you to tune in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that that's such an important reminder. And we create all these constructs as humans of like how we want it to show up.
Yes.
I don't know the percentage and how often they really show up like that, but I think it's a lot lower than what we anticipate. And, I'm one to believe that the reason where I'm at, and it's still a muscle I'm exercising, but one of my coaches used to tell me that don't shame yourself and get upset if you don't follow the intuitive hit. Like truly trust that whatever is for you comes back around, right? And I've had like a book brewing in me for the last 7 years. Actually 8 years, because like that all came in 2018 when I was traveling, and I was so resistant to it. And it's like, I believe that like that message still wants to come through because it's still alive. So I believe when something is for you, let's just say it always comes back around. But where I was going with what my coach was saying too, was that you have to trust that you missed a sign, that's fine. If you think about it later, thank God for sending that sign. So here's a silly example, but it happens. So like, you get the hit to grab your umbrella. If you don't keep your umbrella in the car, and you're like, it's sunny out. There's no way it's raining today. And then it freaking rains 3 or 4 hours later. And you're like, I really wish I would have grabbed that umbrella. And you're like, I knew I got that hit for a reason. And so when that happens, I'll just say, you know what? I was aware that I received that guidance from you, and I chose consciously not to follow that, but thank you. Thank you. I saw how that came in. And so that, even if you miss it, you're still validating that energy to strength. It's like you're an antenna.
That. I really like that.
You're the antenna.
Yes.
Our human vessel is an antenna for this creative consciousness that's swarming around in this invisible, unseen quantum realm.
Yeah.
We know it's there because look at Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is sent through a channel that you can't see.
Yes.
I can literally call my friends over in Europe through WhatsApp, Telegram, and talk to them. It's wild.
It is
But
wild.
that's the unseen energy.
Yeah. Well, and you're making me think of something that recently happened to me, and I shared this with you, but I'll share it with the audience. So I remember sitting at my desk in my house, looking out the window. I mean, like, okay, God, I just need to know, like, is everything going to be okay? Like, I just kept like, I was just going through a lot. I'm like, I just need to know. And 3 weeks later, and I said, we had just been out for a walk and we were seeing some animals. Like we saw some deer, we saw a possum, like things like that. And so I just asked like God for a sign. I said, like, can you let me see a fox? Which was so random for me, but also like fox are just a thing for our family. And so I was like, okay, like, and so I just said it and I was like, and I'm laughing a little bit inside, like picturing this like live fox being outside next time, like we go for a walk. 3 weeks later, I'm sitting in the same spot and I'm going, well, I never like saw anything. So maybe I thought maybe I asked too much. I did. I thought that maybe I asked too much. Maybe things aren't going to be okay. Like I had all these thoughts, but I'm like, okay, just like let it be.
Yeah.
the next day, I kid you not, I'm upstairs. My mom had spent the night that night, and she's like, I'm going to get my son ready. And so I throw her some clothes to put on him. I go downstairs, and she brings him down, and I'm playing with one of his toys to get him like propped up. And literally it's got like all these like animals, and they're like, they pop up. And the first button I hit is a red button, and the red button like says fox. Yeah. And I just like, how many times I had heard this thing like all throughout the week, and I just like, it just clicked.
Yeah.
And I looked up, and my son is in a fox shirt. Like the whole outfit was gray with one fox on it. And it was just so like, got it moment. And then it was even more intense because that night I'm putting my son to bed, and I'm like pulling out his clothes to like put him in his sleeper. Mm-hmm. The only clean thing left was the fox sleeper.
I love this.
And I was just like, I just started laughing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, first off, I was listening finally. Because I probably that pop-up thing we play with every day. I probably put him in that fox outfit before. Yeah. And it was just like a reminder of like, I wanted a real fox to like run in front of me to make it so like apparent. Mm. And that's not what happened. But a fox showed up 3 times in my life that day.
Yeah. Also, there's a fox photo in Live Oak. So how many times have you been in Live Oak? And maybe we're missing that. I noticed that. I was going to text you.
That's hilarious. Yes. And and like to pick a fox. Yeah. You know, and it just so funny. And to your point, like it made me think about like moments where like there have been signs and like, you know, kind of with my intuition, like I was asking for something, but I wasn't being still. Yeah. I wasn't slowing down, and I was just like wanting it my way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that you have this awareness now, and you got the lesson, and it came in glaringly with like 3 or 4 like fox signs in one day. So now you know, right? What a beautiful lesson for you. You had to go through that to remember that the way we always want it to come up or appear might be like a real fox, but the reality is that it showed up in another way. And I think that's part of the beauty of this journey. Like for me, we have got to slow down in this modern world.
We talk a lot about confidence on this show, and let's be real, it's hard to feel your best when you're worried about the way you look, the way you feel, and sometimes that means how you smell. Have you ever gone to the gym and had to rush to a meeting after? Or maybe you've been working at a coffee shop and leave smelling like an espresso. For me, during those Michigan summers, I'm often by a campfire and just too tired to wash my hair afterward. And that is why I carry something that helps my hair smell great without forcing me to spend time on a full wash when I just don't have that time. It's called Fresh Set. Fresh Set is a clean, clear mist that eliminates hair odor, not just covers it. So your style can last longer between washes, and it is made in the USA. Designed for post-workout sweat, day 3 blowouts, hats, helmets, travel days, and everything in between. While everyone else is stuck in a wash-dry style cycle or hiding behind the same ponytails for days, I'm moving on to the next thing with total hair confidence. So don't be the last one to discover it. It's the ultimate secret weapon for a busy schedule. Use the code THECONFIDENT for 25% off your first purchase. Again, go to freshsethair.com and use the code THECONFIDENT for 25% off.
Like it is apparently clear that with the rise in mental health, the rise in disease, that there is an epidemic of, I don't even know what I would call it. We're operating faster than what the bodies were built for. Yes, let's just say. And I truly believe that like all healing begins by going within. And my tagline for my business is now you are the medicine, because this has been my journey. The journey of truly healing mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically begins with you. Yeah. How you treat your body, the stories you're telling yourself, your choice to make the scary decisions and start the business, your choice to say no when your boss comes to you and says, we need to move this deadline up 2 weeks, which means that you're working 60 hours a week and your team members might have to do the same, when in your body you're like, this is not fine, this is not okay, I need to say no. So the more times that you are living and making choices and moving and choosing healthy thoughts, that is your medicine. It can show up in the form also as like a pharmaceutical, but I'm talking about like something deeper here.
Yeah.
There is an ability to connect with this, but you cannot do that by moving at the speed in which you're living your lives today. We have got to slow down.
And I think what came up for me as you were talking is also like, when we go deep, we find our inner truth and we find out like, who are we? And it's so interesting that you say that, because right before we started to come here, I've been like thinking all day about like, you know, next steps and like, who am I? And like my identity shifts over the years.
Yeah.
And one thing that came up was that sometimes, like, it's funny, like I look at my branding and I joke sometimes, like sometimes I'm loud, sometimes I'm calm, sometimes I'm like neutral, like all of these things. And I was laughing today. I'm like, I've never been calm in my entire life. Like not in a bad way. Like it's just like in a beautiful, I am calm, but like I'm a very loud person. Yeah. And I've noticed that like part of like this journey for me is I've quieted the loudness.
Yeah.
You know, I go back to that summer of 2021 when we like were having, I was not quiet. Yeah. Right. Like I was,
but how does quiet show up for you? Like behaviorally, what are you referring to?
So I think like, just like when I think of like, even like the words that I use and like, you know, like quieter and more gentle, I would say gentle. Yeah. Like I'm a gentle human in certain ways, very much. So like I'm an empathetic, like servant leader, things like that. But I am loud.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, you get feedback from people over the years of like, hey, you know, you might want to tone it down here. Or when you said this is how it came off. And like my initial reaction is okay, like quiet everything.
Yeah.
You know, not, and I think what's coming up for me is, so when you talk about this is like, well, who am I? And how I want that to show up? Because I do believe I show up my true self. It's just those little pieces as you grow and shift over time where it's like, I might have quieted this piece of me because of X, or I might have been louder here than I really wanted to be. Yeah. And it's all because of life.
Yeah. Well, and I think that as we, you know, continue on the journey of life, we go through so many seasons and there are so many different self-identities that we're moving through. You've gone through major life transitions in the last few years around like professionally, obviously starting a family. Yeah. And so that's beautiful. And so it's like, these are all aspects of self and there's space for it all. And I think that I'm in this season too of like deeply accepting that there's a part of me that is like this spiritual woman who just wants to be doing yoga and meditation all day and walking the beach. And this woman who is a businesswoman who has a message and is finding her authentic voice and is feeling really feisty and fiery about the reality and the chaos in this world and like wants to help people. And so it's like, how do I honor that there's space for it all? And just really like acknowledge that, because I think for a while there was like this persona of like, well, this is who I am now. I'm like into yoga and meditation and there needs to be a softness and you give away things for free because that's what you do in the spiritual community, right? And so like I bought into that. And then there was like something that felt off where like, well, like, no, like actually what I'm saying is not all I have to say. And as I kind of was on my own journey and like having all these experiences with my coaches, it was like, there was so much that wanted to come up that I needed to share, but it felt wrong to speak like that or to swear once in a while in my Instagram post or whatever. Does a spiritual woman do that? And so I'm to this point, like I turned 40, it's like I'm in my pocket 40s, excuse my French, and I just don't care what people think anymore at this point because I'm evolving, I'm human, I've accepted that there are all of these layers of shedding different aspects and identities throughout my life, and I will continue to do that. And it's my life. Yeah. And I'm just going to honor where she's at in this moment and know that there will be days to be walking on the beach, meditating, doing nothing else, and days when I have opportunities like this where it's like dress up, put on the nice jewelry and the lipstick, and it's a different aspect of who Libby is.
Love that.
Throughout her life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you bring that up because you're right. Like you bet I love my heels that I'm wearing right now, my blazer. But you know, I can't wait to be in my yoga pants tonight too, right? Like it's both. It's not it's not an or. it's you can be both. And how does that show up? And I think to your point, like I was just thinking a lot, even this morning when I was on the treadmill, about like, you know, you hear a lot about brand, what's your brand? And it's like, well, I am multiple things. And I think that that's so beautiful. Like, and how does that show up? Not only from like, I guess from a business perspective, but just like an Elisa perspective. Like, how do you just be Libby? How do you just be Lisa?
Yeah.
And how does that show up? Because, you know, I think a lot about the personas that we put on sometimes, but I also think like, you know, Safe Place here with the podcast is like, I'm always me here, you know, and how cool is it to have like a place where you're like, this is who I am. This is what I'm going through, and honoring that, you know?
And I think the more we do that, it gives other people permission too, right? Because I think part of when I go back to my brand of You Are the Medicine, when we look at pictures of ourselves 10 years ago, we look very different. We have a glow, and I'm not saying that, I'm saying this so humbly but proudly, that like the reason that we look like we're in our 20s and we're not is because of the work that we've done and shedding the old identities, shedding behaviors that didn't serve us, letting go of relationships that didn't serve us, and that has been our medicine. My body is physically healthier, my heart is healthier, my mind is healthier. Like everything about my life experience is completely different because I've learned to just like really like step into this authoritative power that I didn't feel like I had permission to do in order to figure out, how do I want to live my life? Yeah. I was definitely a people pleaser and just doing things because I thought it made other people happy, and then I'd be liked and be validated and feel wanted and needed and like all of the things. But I couldn't tell you, again, going back to my therapist, I'm referencing her twice. Man, she's very alive today. She said, what do you love to do for fun? And at the time I was working crazy hours. I was working in tech. I literally was like, play volleyball? I literally said that, and I remember it so clear because I remember thinking that was so dumb. You haven't played volleyball since like high school or college. That's not a hobby. That's not who you are. And so she encouraged me to like begin this journey of like, who is Libby? And so you ask yourself the question of, who am I? And it was like, well, I'm a sister, and I'm an aunt, and maybe a partner, and a businesswoman, and those are all identities. And at the core of that, when I really sit with the who am I, through my meditation practice and through studying different like spiritualities at this point in religions, who I am is what I believe is just like a soul having a human experience. And how cool is it that I get to design this life? And so I get giddy about, I can make whatever decision that I want. How cool is this to have this permission? But that was not who I used to be.
Yeah.
I hated making decisions for myself. I second guessed myself all of the time. It was like not fun for me. And now I said this recently to somebody who is starting a business. You get to make up the rules. We're all doing it. And it's so fun, and it can be stressful sometimes. But like, how cool is it that we live in this life and every day we have a choice? So many people don't think that they have a choice. Like I feel powerless to my employer or to my partner or to my kids or to my parents or whoever. And I actually just had this conversation with a coaching client as well. You always have power. Your power is being able to say no when you truly want to say no and not just saying yes. Your power is in speaking truth, even if you feel like there could be a repercussion. Your power is deciding to not go to the party even though you've already committed because you had a 60-hour week and you have a migraine. You still have power in every single moment. And I think there's a reason that this is feeling alive when we didn't plan to be talking about this right now. But like, I know for me, I'm in this season of like reclaiming that, like remembering all of this. It's like conceptually, I've read all the books that say this, and there's a deeper layer of embodiment that's happening. Yeah. And I think that like life is the greatest curriculum and workshop for us. You can read all the books, read all the podcasts, go to all the retreats. I'm all for that. Yep. And also, you need to practice living and embodying that which knowledge and data and information you're taking in. Yeah. You can't just sit on the hammock and visualize it, I think it's going to happen.
Yes, 100%. Well, and what you're also bringing up is something that I have seen consistently with almost half of my coaching clients is just like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like what, and it's an interesting piece because when I do ask those questions, everybody pauses.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to I think it's just, I would say an evolution that I'm seeing right now where people are like, yeah, who am I? Like, who does this person want to be? Like, because you are sometimes living for other people or others' agendas. And how does that show up? And I've said multiple times on this podcast for 2026, it's like, this is the year I come home to myself. And so it's really cool to think about who you want to be. And so when we talk about intuition, we've talked a little bit about like sitting still, staying focused there. Who are you? You still have to sit still. You have to go inward to go there. But there's this piece that I find fascinating in all of this is when you're going through change and all of this, the nervous system can feel it. The nervous system, you can go into fight or flight when you're going through change, when you're not listening to the intuition, all of these things. And so one of the things that I'm going to go back to years. I don't know if you ever think about this of things that you have to do now that might have happened years ago and how your nervous system starts to come alive again of oh yeah, that didn't go so well 15 years ago. And then all of these feelings come up or you become paralyzed by an email or you're like, okay, am I in fight or my flight? Like where am I right now? And so take us to a moment maybe in your life where your nervous system was really, really feeling it and how you work through that. Because I think that has a lot to do with what we're talking about as well.
Yeah. That's such a beautiful question. And I love that. And, I think one of the things for me is that when we have experiences, it's it leaves an imprint in our energy field, let's just say. And so when we get into other experiences that mirror that in some way. And that's not to say that it looks exactly the same or the same characters or the same people are involved in that, but it's the same subconscious pattern that's moving through. So for me, because I've kind of started to talk about being in full expression and finding my voice again. When I was young, I hated being in front of people, recitals, when you have to do those little spring singing thingies that you do. I don't know what they're called, when you're in elementary or middle school. I have a memory of being so nervous and so upset and crying and being at my house and not wanting to go. And my parents literally having to pick me up and put me in the car because I was so resistant to go. And it was the fear of truly just performing in front of people. Okay, so then it's you go on this journey. I was always in positions. This was so alive in everything that I did now that I look back, where I always got myself into positions where I very quickly was promoted to leading, which meant that I was in a room with executives a couple years out of college presenting about how to build HR teams. And I literally didn't know what I was doing. It was I just made it up as I went and sounded confident and, put a little bit of research and statistics in there and speak with authority. Yeah. And you pretend to move through that. But through all of those experiences, it would always make me nervous. And I still get nervous when I'm getting on stage where you get the butterflies in your stomach and all of that. But basically what would happen is that sometimes you get so nervous that you get in your head and you forget what you're going to say, or it's I rehearsed this 50 times, I should know what I'm saying, and the mind goes blank. That's typically a trauma response. And so the nervous system in that sense in that moment is just getting hijacked, if you will, from the maybe core memory that created that or whatever memory it's connecting to. And it thinks about this idea of getting in front of people and having to present or perform.
Yeah.
And so I have had to work through, it's definitely not a social anxiety, but this embodiment of feeling like I had to be a perfectionist and be so put together and not make a mistake, which was as a child wanting to show up and be perfect. And then through my professional career, also wanting to impress people. And I was in my young 20s with all of these older people in the boardroom and needing to put on this new, it's a way of being and presenting to make me look like I had authority. And I didn't truly believe I had authority. And so it was I feel like I'm losing my train of thought here with like
you're
kind
good.
of going through the story, but like the idea then of like, what would I do now? Like, what would I tell the younger version of Libby that was going into that boardroom would be some of the things that we have already talked about to prepare my energy and my nervous system. So maybe it's like setting intention and doing a meditation before I go in. Maybe it's a lot of times when this comes up in my body, so it's like maybe I'm getting ready to present and I notice that fear. I sit with that and I like put my hand on my heart and I'll be like, I see you, fear. I see you, fear of like getting on that stage and sharing your message and potentially being rejected, or somebody like arguing your point and not agreeing with it, because I want to make everyone happy and I want everyone to buy into what I have to say, right? It's like, I see you, and it's totally okay, because in this moment, this was an opportunity from God and you are meant to be serving in this way. And it's okay. You will touch the lives you are supposed to touch, and it's okay to be scared. But in this moment, I'm choosing to move forward with grace and confidence and clarity and trust, and knowing that there is a deeper purpose as to why I'm here. Like, I wish I would have known all of this when I was younger.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different people out there teaching somatics, which is a form of nervous system regulation, could be through breath work, could be through like shaking. I do like, if I get out of an environment that felt like really highly emotionally charged, and I notice that like I all of a sudden have racing thoughts or might be really moody, like I've taken on that energy, I literally go like this and I just like shake myself off, and I'll just like jump up and down. And for me, it's just symbolism of like releasing that energy. And that comes from, like, if you watch nature, and just driving back from obviously West Michigan here last night at dusk, there were tons of deer. If a deer, gets hit, or like, maybe not hit, that's still very violent. It's getting chased, and it goes into basically flight, has to flee the scene of whatever animal is chasing it. There is a nervousness that deer might have. And so what do animals do? They shake it off. I don't know how long they shake for, but I know that they shake.
Wow.
And then they just go back and they join the herd again. And so anyways, I share that in that there are so many different ways to regulate your nervous system. For me, it's been meditation, breath work. I am using a lot of somatic work. I have learned a lot of like energy work techniques over the years. I've learned so much, and it all is so helpful. And I don't say this to overwhelm anybody that's listening. It's like, I've always prayed in this moment, what do I need? What would serve me to come up in a more grounded state? And I might hear breath work. I might hear meditation. I might hear go to your altar. I might hear go find this book, and, you turn to a page and you're like, that's what I needed to hear. Sometimes, it just, there's so many things you can do.
Yes.
So.
No, I love that. Well, and I think, obviously with a lot of changes comes, for me, the nervous systems pieces. And recently I go back to something that happened in my corporate years where I had to send out this mass email, and everything that could have went wrong, everybody was like, you get all the names that need to be on this list. And then everybody approves the list. Like it was a whole thing. Well, we sent it to the wrong group. And I will never, ever forget that. But I also go back to like, I just remember sending that because I like closed my eyes and sent it, walked away, walked back, like all the things. And I'll never forget sending that, it going wrong. And then like my nervous system was feeling it, like like all the things, because then I had to go downstairs. We were traveling, and I had to go tell the leader, who was so adamant that it had to be perfect, that it wasn't perfect. And I'll never, ever forget this moment, because I walked in there, and like normally I would avoid it, right? I would avoid it. And I walked in there and I looked at him, and he goes, I'm not really happy right now. And I was like, I'm not very happy either. Like we both just agreed on that. And I said, I apologized. And he was like, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the situation. And I was like, okay, but like, let's fix it together. And I remember that so well, because my nervous system was like feeling all the things. I won't lie. I wanted to flight. Like I wanted to leave this moment. I wanted to curl up in a ball and like not deal with it. And then recently I had to send out another mass email, and like 4 things went wrong. Someone wasn't happy. And then I had to send out a small email. And I remember thinking in my head, like, well, I just sent out this and those things went wrong. This is going to happen again. And like my body, like when you think about the moment where your body just kind of gives out, that's how it felt for me. My nervous system really gave out. But I think what I like, to your point, like I had to take a deep breath in and be like, okay, so you're going to allow this to stop you forever? Like, girlfriend, like you got to move past this.
Yeah.
And me following through and like, it took me an extra hour of my day to like, make everything perfect.
Yeah.
And I sent it and no issues. And my heart just was like,
Yeah.
because I had to push through it. And that's hard.
Yeah. And I think it was so brave and so courageous of you to like go to your boss and to approach it the way that you did and to invite him into a collaborative, like, let's fix this, right? Versus playing victim and making up all of the excuses that you could have.
That's true.
But it's so important that like when our nervous system is having some type of a reaction, we could get flush in the face, our heart might start beating, the digestion starts to wreck a little bit of headache, we might get headaches, tensions in our shoulder. Like that's the body's way of like, it's like the signal for us that something's happening. There's whatever that might be. We can call it fight or flight if we want. We can call it a nervous system, reaction. It doesn't matter what the label is. The reality is that something is happening. And you said something so powerful that a lot of times we want to push it away. And it's very important that we don't. Because that's for me where that type of discord and tension and incongruence from that reaction stays energetically in the body. Ooh. And that for me, that happens enough times. My beliefs are that that is what creates and leads to disease because there are distortions in our energy field from those types of experiences. So in that moment, I don't know what you did, but like just using this as a real life example, you have the oh shit moment. It went to the wrong group. Really? Your heart starts racing. You had all of these physical reactions happening in your body. Before going to your boss, you could have just sat there and breathed through it and felt it. Feel the discomfort. It is so, people are so scared of feeling the discomfort, but it's just data.
True.
There's nothing else happening. We create all of these constructs, but like feel the discomfort because the more you resist something, the more it persists. That migraine could go away in potentially a couple of minutes if you're noticing it versus letting it go on for days because you're not willing to look at the pain or the authentic emotion that arose in that experience. So be with that. That's something that I've had to learn. Like I couldn't even label my emotions. I couldn't tell you what I was feeling. Everything was frustrated. Ooh. So I had to really learn how to truly connect with and learn, what does this emotion feel like? What does this feel like in my body? And teach myself that over the years because the discomfort felt scary and I always pushed it away. And so I would push it away by staying addicted to work, by deciding to go out and say yes to the happy hour that I didn't really want to go to, by just staying busy cleaning the house versus sitting down for a couple minutes and just feeling that and consoling my inner child that was being reminded of the original core memory that had created this response in my body and healing that.
Yeah.
And I guess it just, the discomfort of that, can feel really scary.
Yeah.
But I think learning to invite that in with grace and love and to just see it as purely just something that comes and then goes. I mean, everything comes in waves. Yeah. With all the thoughts we're having, it's I think the science is 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day.
Isn't that crazy?
It's not going to stick around if we
true.
don't give it the power. But I would encourage anyone listening to this message to allow yourself the space to be with that discomfort and you will move through that in a completely different way.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. Whew. Okay. So lots of good things. So I kind of love when I end podcasts, I love to ask around quick questions.
Oh no.
I know. Be ready. First question I always ask is, Libby, what is your zone of genius?
Oh my gosh. What is my zone of genius? I don't know if this counts as a zone of genius, but I would just say allowing people the space to become present and creating connection. People have always reflected that back to me and I never understood what I was doing. Yeah. But yeah, I would say my zone of genius is presence. Does that count?
100%. And I can attest to that because I say that because when I need someone to be present and like hear me, Libby does a really good job of that for me. I also love when I even had you do something the other day and you were like, well, what do you need from me? And I'm like, love that too, because then you aren't making that assumption. You just create the space that I need in that moment. So yes, you do that for people. Okay. Next question is what's a lesson that you felt like the universe kept teaching you until you learned it?
Oh my God, there's so many. Oh my God, like we need an entire episode. Can we come back next week and like talk about this so I can be a little bit more?
I have so many.
Oh my gosh, girl, it like I think the big one that comes up for me, biggest lesson in my lifetime is learning just to find. It's almost like allow myself to be who I am in that moment and to know that it's enough. When I don't have the answers, it's okay.
That makes me emotional hearing that. Keep going.
Yeah.
Like it's beautiful for you.
Oh, thank you. Yes. I think I put so much pressure on myself of needing to try to meet so many people's expectations and be perfect, whatever that means. It's like it's like sometimes I just laugh at myself. I think maybe that's another lesson. Just freaking laugh and have fun and make it playful instead of making it a big, like, uncomfortable experience with all of this highly charged emotion. I can't tell you how many times my coach called me out yesterday and I was in the car driving here to this area and I was just laughing at myself like, how did I not see this? And so like I used to get hard on myself like, how could you not see that? Versus how could you not see that, Libby? That is like so funny. There's a different tone and energy to that. So I think just allowing myself that grace of it's okay to mess up. It's okay to not say the right thing. And just knowing that like everything is perfect right now.
Yeah.
Has been huge.
I love that. Well, and I want to point out something that you said that you have a coach and so do I. And I think a lot of people don't realize like coaches, as a coach, I am so grateful I have a coach. It has like, cannot recommend it enough. And I know that, you know, people are like, but you're a coach. You say that. I'm like, if I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't have one. And it is a life changer for me.
It's always like you're doing it. We say and we teach the things that we need to like embody ourselves. So like that's also maybe something I've learned. Like there's a reason I'm in this. So, you know, there's a big soul lessons happening in this lifetime. However, I've always had somebody close in my corner because it's like I get in my own way. I think people also perceive that like even if we're coaches, we have it all together. Yeah. Like that is totally not true. I am able to show up as the coach that I am because of the lessons that I am learning myself. Yes. And I always say I get the lessons before my clients do. So sometimes when it feels really crazy, it all of a sudden, you know, might be the next week, 2 weeks, couple months later, you're like, oh, this is why I had to go through this. Right? We can only take people as deep as we've gone in our journeys, which I think is why we are like such exceptional coaches because we're just like, give it to me. I've been praying, like, just give it to me right now. Like, I am ready for this journey. Keep using me to like spread your word and like, you know, bring goodness and love into this world. Like whatever needs to go, like I'm just doing it. And there's been a lot coming in, but it's like, it also at the same time going back, I asked for this. I'm not going to be upset about it. Like, give it to me now.
Yes, I feel that to my core. And I literally right before, I kid you not, in the car before we came in here, I was reading a LinkedIn post that said, find coaches that have depth. Because when they've done the deep in the work, they can be a better coach. And you literally just said that. So it's like, yes. And I like, when I was reading that, I was like, yes, I feel like I'm a better coach because of how deep I've gone on so many levels. So yes. Okay. Last question is obviously we used to teach play together. So, and we've sang karaoke together probably once or more times than we want to admit. What would be your walk up song or your karaoke song?
Right now in this moment?
Yes.
Well, I don't sing karaoke, but anymore. I'll tell you the songs that I'm dancing to. Okay, Can I switch your question a little bit?
Yeah,
okay.
Totally.
Olivia Dean, Man I Need, All the Way, Obsessed, and Harvest, the remix by Lincoln Jesser. He's a DJ.
I'll have to listen to that.
So good. You're going to love it. It's like, they're like my dance songs when I need to like get myself moving.
Get into the mood. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Libby, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast. I love our conversations and our friendship. And so to everybody listening, I know you probably took some amazing things away. So thank you, Libby, again.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So thanks so much for tuning into today's podcast. I had such a great time talking to Libby about understanding our nervous system, understanding our intuition, and really how to slow down and trust ourselves and know that what is meant for us will actually show up, even if it has to come around a few times. I loved her stories. I love the relationship that what I have with her. And I hope that you took away so many great things like I did. Even though, these are many things that I teach and hear, it's always a great reminder to come back to ourself and do the inner work. So if you like today's episode, please let me know. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our website. And as I say on every podcast, continue to spread love and kindness to everybody that you meet, and have a great day. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Confident Podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. So send me a message at podcast.lisatarkington.com. Don't forget, while you're there, to subscribe to our newsletter, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget to spread the good by sharing this with someone in your life. Remember, you have the power to choose confidence every single day. Keep showing up, keep striving, and keep believing in your potential. I'm cheering you on, and I'll see you next time.